Hey everyone, and welcome back to Elon Musk Land. For a few years now, NASA has been behind when it comes to space exploration. Before the rise of other companies, NASA was mostly dependent on Boeing Starliner. However, a new rival came to shake up the whole industry, led by none other than Elon Musk. SpaceX has managed to become one of the best space companies in the world right now, making its own achievements in a very short period of time. And now they've become so good that NASA's already giving them contracts. But what exactly made NASA choose SpaceX over Boeing? Stay tuned to find out. Well, NASA has become really eager to get back into space exploration. That's why they've had so much confidence in working with SpaceX as opposed to working with any other company. Since NASA and Elon Musk's SpaceX have the same objectives, both of them need to come together to make the necessary moves to accomplish their goals in space exploration. However, this new decision by NASA will have a huge impact on the Boeing mission. Boeing's Starliner was almost ready for the mission. Boeing had already attached a Starliner capsule to the Atlas V rocket on the launch pad before the OFT-2 mission began. But with NASA's decision, the Starliner capsule mission is now suspended until further notice. NASA recently announced that 2 of its astronauts would be transferred from Boeing missions to a future SpaceX flight. This decision was motivated by the long delay of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft. Boeing's Starliner spaceship was due to undergo a test flight, and it was going to be done by Nicole Mann. The test flight was supposed to take them from the ISS, and Josh Cassada was going to be the one assigned to the ship's first operational trip. However, the Starliner launch, which was to take place with no crew, has been indefinitely postponed. That forced NASA to make the decision to reassign the astronauts to the future SpaceX missions, as they gave Boeing more time to complete the development of the Starliner. Mann is the one in command of the transfer, while Cassada pilots the SpaceX Crew 5 mission. Catherine Louders, NASA's Directorate of Space Operations mission, has stated that Nicole and Josh have both done an incredible job pioneering the training and road ahead for astronauts to fly on Boeing's Starliner aircraft. She also added that the 2 astronauts would use their skills to navigate SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft. Both NASA and SpaceX's relationships are not anything new. NASA has granted SpaceX and Boeing a contract to develop a spacecraft to be used by the agency's Commercial Crew program, which is going to transport US astronauts to and from the ISS. However, the Starliner spacecraft has faced a lot of problems, slowing down Boeing's launch. Boeing had recently planned an uncrewed test trio, which was cancelled after the engineers discovered that one of the valves of the spaceship's propulsion system had a fault. This was discovered a few hours before the launch. Another further checkup at the capsule found that there was an additional 13 valves that were not opening correctly, and that they would prevent the engine from firing up. The Starliner was then sent to the manufacturer back for repairs, which caused the launch to be put off indefinitely. Later on, in December 2019, Boeing tried carrying out an unmanned test flight of the Starliner, but it was not successful. The spacecraft had issues, causing it to go completely off course as it burned through fuel sooner than expected. That meant that it didn't have enough fuel to take it to the ISS and then back to Earth. Boeing was one of the most well-known companies in the space industry, with over a century of experience. It also had a major role in every major movement in NASA's history. By then, SpaceX was just a relative startup that was disregarded as a delusional billionaire's fantasy. Critics even made fun of it, saying that it would be like building rockets out of a wax and rubber band system. So SpaceX took the world by storm when it beat Boeing to orbit. This made some members of Congress question why NASA was still bothering with granting both companies the contracts to develop capsules to transport astronauts to the ISS as part of the Commercial Crew program. However, as SpaceX has evolved from a wealthy man's dream that everyone criticized to one of the best companies in the aerospace industry, the rivalry between it and Boeing has become even worse. At first, SpaceX was seen as a startup that would never achieve anything. When NASA was awarding the contracts for the Commercial Crew program in 2014, Boeing was given a larger percentage of funds, which came to a total of $6.8 billion. Boeing received 60% of it, $4.2 billion, while SpaceX was given the remaining 40%, which was $2.6 billion. These 2 allocations were for the same amount of work. However, when it came to transporting humans to orbit, SpaceX already had an advantage. Since 2012, SpaceX has been the one transporting cargo and supplies to the ISS. This gave them a lot of experience in launching spacecraft into orbit and having them meet up and dock with the station. The Falcon 9 rocket, which is currently SpaceX's most famous, has flown multiple missions for both NASA and the commercial sector. As Musk says, they have been super scrappy. If they did it the standard way, they would have run out of money. For many years, they were week to week on cash flow. Within weeks of running out of money, it definitely creates a mindset of smart spending. He recommends to be scrappy or die. Those were his only two options. He used to buy scrap components, fix them up, make them work. Unlike SpaceX, Boeing was mostly used to the cost-plus contracts, which were mostly employed by large government projects, such as the Space Launch System rocket. This allowed them to spend more while having longer timeframes. But Boeing has been struggling. The odd-man test mission that they carried out with the Starliner spaceship went terribly wrong from the time it entered orbit late last year. It was found that the computers aboard the spacecraft were 11 hours off, causing the spacecraft to believe that it was at a different stage of the mission as opposed to where it actually was. Controllers on the ground had a hard time communicating with it. Later on, the corporation found a software flaw that would have compromised the crew's module's separation from the service module. As a result, Boeing had plans to refly the test mission, which it was expecting to do before the end of last year. The managers were greatly embarrassed by the setback, which was later reflected on the heels of the catastrophic accidents of two 737 MAX aircraft. This resulted in the roles being reversed. NASA was now disregarding Boeing, which was a dependable partner up until that point. NASA said it had become poorer in its control of the business. NASA also added that even after they grant Boeing a pass, the agency will have to do a lot of comprehensive safety examinations of the corporation. The same thing was done for SpaceX, when Musk was reportedly recorded using marijuana on a podcast live on the internet. According to one industry insider, Boeing executives are extremely shocked that SpaceX can be flying passengers before them. The official said, "People are irritated by Elon. How can this guy who smokes puff defeat us?" The official spokesperson anonymously said that he was not allowed to comment publicly. Musk has told the Washington Post that SpaceX's motivation for its growth came from the fact that the large aerospace corporations did not believe that it could get where it is right now. He stated that they messed up because they were arrogant and complacent. Boeing confronted SpaceX, and Musk stated that at the start of the 21st century, before he joined the space industry, Boeing was constructing the ISS alongside NASA, where he had kept humans safe and continually in orbit. While others were speaking about dreams and hopes, they were really accomplishing things in space and fulfilling America's promise to the Mars mission. When a NASA inspector found that the average cost of Boeing's Starliner would be $90 million per astronaut, SpaceX's Dragon would be about $55 million a seat. This caused clashes between the companies. Musk didn't like it, and he went on Twitter stating that it wasn't fair that Boeing receives so much more for the same thing. Boeing reacted angrily to the same story, stating that it was true that their rival obtained a contract years ago to create a cargo vehicle that eventually served as the foundation for the Crew project. They then later went on to complete all the projects under the Commercial Crew contract on a more condensed and quicker timeline. SpaceX was more successful when it was chosen to be one of the three companies to get an earlier contract to design a spacecraft that would take people to the moon. On the other hand, Boeing was not one of the three companies chosen. Musk changed his tone when Boeing's Starliner experienced difficulties after reaching orbit in 2020. He tweeted, "Orbit is hard. Best wishes for a safe landing and a quick recovery to the next mission." Earlier in 2021, the Starliner was on the launch pad, ready for Boeing's second attempt at an orbital flight test. The first attempt was back in 2019, and it did not go well after it experienced technical issues, preventing the spacecraft from reaching the space station. Before Boeing can go back to flying regular missions, it must first pass the retest and carry out a crewed test flight. But for SpaceX, it has been doing this since 2020. So what do you think of NASA's decision to make a permanent move on SpaceX and leave Boeing's Starliner behind? Let us know down below, and thank you for watching. While you're still here, go ahead and click on one of these two videos on your screen. See you there.